All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and this deep dive, pretty much a Rico report, is presented by PrizePicks. Of course, all Rico reports, everything is pertaining to the Commanders in one way, shape, or form, but we're diving into so many different topics. We have a lot to talk about today. First of all, we have a Brian Thomas trade scenario that includes multiple teams brought up by a draft analyst, not a Commanders fan nor a Commanders writer. Also, we have multiple national analysts and fantasy football guys saying that Jayden Daniels is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. We're going to dive into all of that. Also, you have a lot of national analysts also saying that Washington had the best offseason in the entire NFL, at least top 3. We're going to dive into all of those reports and breakdowns. And also, finally, we're going to take a look at where Washington stands in everybody's current NFL power rankings before we head into the rest of our off-season workouts. But before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for supporting every single video, man. Y'all do not understand how much that matters, especially Watch to the End gang. Shouts out to Late Night Crew, Early Morning Crew, Nody gang, Early Video gang, and Loop the Loop group. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video immediately. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so first of all, let's start with this Brian Thomas Jr. situation. You have a draft analyst, again, not a Commanders fan nor a Commanders reporter, proposing that the Commanders trade for Brian Thomas after the Jaguars trade for a different receiver to basically replace Brian Thomas, even though they would be getting that receiver before they trade away Brian Thomas Jr. So elite drafters, again, this is an NFL draft analyst, college football evaluator, dynasty football, fantasy football type of guy, all of that type of stuff. No attachment to the Commanders whatsoever. Not in any sort of way biased towards the Commanders and, you know, trying to just look for any random trade that benefits the Commanders. No way, shape, or form. And he tweeted out of nowhere 3 days ago, May 14th, the Jags are reported to be in the A.J. Brown sweepstakes. So at that point, how about Brian Thomas Jr. traded to the Commanders to rejoin Jayden Daniels? That would be big news. So he's proposing that the Jags trade for A.J. Brown rather than it being the Patriots. We know A.J. Brown's not going to be there for the Eagles by week 1. I'm pretty sure he's going to be gone before training camp. He's leaving. Most people assume that it's the Patriots, but now apparently the Jaguars are included in the sweepstakes, and that could make sense. You trade away more draft capital for A.J. Brown than you're potentially going to get for Brian Thomas Jr., but because you traded away draft capital to get A.J. Brown from the Eagles, you may want to recoup at least some of that. You're not going to get all of that in return because a trade, an A.J. Brown for Brian Thomas Jr. trade would get denied every day, all day. A.J. Brown is going for more draft pick value than Brian Thomas Jr. is. So after you trade for A.J. Brown, you know, the Jaguars could be looking for, like, you know, now that we lost this draft capital, we just had a terrible offseason. Let's see if we can try to recoup some draft capital, especially heading into this 2027 draft that is projected to be elite. And then later on that same day, he also tweeted, Jayden Daniels, he even included the clips from LSU, Jayden Daniels with a big-time throw to Brian Thomas Jr. Rumors are circulating that Jaguars' interest in A.J. Brown could lead to Thomas being available, and that does make a lot of sense, like I already explained. You give up all that draft capital for A.J. Brown, you're going to want to at least get some of that value back by trading away a Brian Thomas Jr., who doesn't seem to fit what y'all want to do on offense. And then shouts out to the Full Command Show for letting us all know all the way back on March 11th, presenting this. Like, there has been a consistent flow of rumors and reports saying that the Jaguars would be willing to trade Brian Thomas Jr. if the price is right. Literally, from Connor J. Hughes, he said this on the B. Mitch and Finley show, saying that Brian Thomas Jr. is available for the right price, which is estimated to be a second-round pick. Granted, that was before this draft even happened. So maybe it's, with the 2027 draft projected to be a better draft than the 2026 one, maybe you can get him for a 3rd round pick in the 2027 draft rather than a 2nd round pick in that draft, since he was going for a 2nd round pick in the previous draft. And then Full Command Show also pointed out the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. had 1,282 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. before only having 707 yards and 2 touchdowns last year, which is crazy. Like, that's a down season for him. I know touchdowns bad. We're going to talk about the drop soon. That's also bad. But 707 yards is not a horrible season. Like, if you're expecting that out of your wide receiver one, yes, that's really bad. But I mean, Terry McLaurin has been begging for a 700-yard receiver to be alongside him. So my point is, Brian Thomas Jr. in his worst season of his 2 seasons is still better than anything Terry McLaurin has ever had next to him since he's been drafted by the Burgundy and Gold. Then shouts out to Fantasy Pros for pointing out the fact that he was wide receiver 4 in 2024. Then he was wide receiver 42 in 2025. Then they asked, which Brian Thomas Jr. are we getting in 2026? And I feel like the biggest difference between his 2 seasons were the drops. Injuries mattered as well, but even when he was healthy, them drops were troubling. Like, I think he had 8 drops, which were tied for the 3rd most in the NFL this past season, and only hauling in 48 catches. So 8 drops to 48 catches is a disgusting ratio for a wide receiver. You would even be disappointed if your running back was doing stuff like that. And then even when you go back and look at his insane 2024 season when he was balling, even some of his great plays, he's kind of like double catching the ball where it hits his hands, he kind of drops it a little bit, and then he finds a way to corral it before he goes to the ground. So maybe that's just something he can never fix. Maybe he'll never have great hands. But, you know, of course, if we ended up getting him somehow, I would hope that we can improve on that. I mean, we do have Wes Welker here. And I keep trying to see if he could be this force multiplier for anybody in our receiver room, because he never had any athleticism. He wasn't the fastest guy, the quickest guy, the strongest guy, the tallest guy. He had no physical advantages. Everything that made him great was pure work ethic, nuance, being a technician, the route running, the hands, everything he worked for. He wasn't born with any of the advantages that he created for himself at the NFL level. And so if you could take a talented guy like a Brian Thomas Jr. that was naturally gifted, born to be an elite football player, absolute insane athlete that you can't teach, and then you give him a teacher like Wes Welker, maybe we can fix some things. But of course, these are all hypotheticals, because we've been saying this for over the past year, hoping that he could do that for a lot of our receivers, and it hasn't come up yet, but I'm still hoping. But I do want to, again, go back to the point that the Jaguars had arguably the worst offseason out of all 32 NFL teams this past offseason. So maybe they could be desperate, especially, again, after trading away draft capital to get A.J. Brown. They could be desperate to try to get as much 2027 draft capital as possible, and maybe you can get them for even a slight discount because they're backed into like a somewhat organizational corner, with him especially not being a great fit for what they want to do offensively with the Jaguars, as we saw last year. I doubt that you'll be able to get them for a discount because of that, but you just never know. Now, before we move on to the rest of this video and we dive into all of the offseason hype and praise from the national media over the Commanders, before we dive into all the Jayden Daniels praise and hype from the national media as well, and then before we end it off with power rankings for the Commanders based off of different websites and how they feel about us after the draft and the off seasons we've had, before we get to all of that, shouts out to Rico's runs, man. You know I make my runs and plays with PrizePicks, so before we dive into it, PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports you're already watching. Let's try and win some cash while we're at it, and the app is really easy to use. Just simply pick more or less on a few players of stats and lock it in. And PrizePicks is available in most U.S. states, including my Georgia, and in 2/3 of the Mecca for Commanders fans, D.C. and Virginia. They're working on Maryland right now. And as you can see on the screen, they're starting to load up a lot of the future stuff. So you can go ahead. They've added new people since the last time I showed y'all futures. So like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, if you think he can at least get 551 rushing yards, you click more. They added Chigakonkwo recently. If you think he can get at least 476 receiving yards, you click more. And I'm really confident in that one. I like that even more than I like the Bill one, and I'm really high on the Bill one. Jayden Daniels only needs 3,401 passing yards. You click more on that, we're good to go. Terry as well, 925 receiving yards. I think out of the group I've shown you so far, that's the one that's the least likely to happen, but I still believe it's quite likely to happen. And then, of course, if you're going to do this, you have to have at least more than one different team included in it. So I went ahead and threw Myles Garrett in there for the 14 sacks because he went well over that, breaking the sack record last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets close to that again. So as long as he gets 14.5 sacks, we are good to go there. And make sure you use promo code HMA like you see at the top right of the screen and the bottom right of the screen to get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 or more. Or to make it even easier for you, you can just click the link at the top of the description of this video. And every video and live stream I'm doing all year long and all season long. And of course, also make sure you follow me on the app at StreetScores ATL so you're able to tell every single play that I'm making as well. And also, please make sure you play responsibly. Now let's get back to the video, man. All right, so now it's time to have some fun. Again, we have a bunch of off-season hype and praise from the national media for what the Commanders did this past off-season. Shouts out to Stick to the Model. They graded every team's 2026 offseason, of course, so far. They did this a few days ago on May 11th, so anything since then, even though I don't think anything major happened since then for it to really change anybody's grades like that, but there's a lot to happen. There's still a lot of veteran free agents that are available out there that could be signed. There's a lot of potential trades. Again, that A.J. Brown trade feels inevitable. We just don't know where to yet. But as of today, they said that including the NFL draft, free agency, and the value of each move relative to the players' rankings in their free agency big boards and their draft big boards. According to Stick to the Model, the Commanders had the best offseason out of every NFL team in 2026, bro. And I kind of agree. I'm not going to lie. They literally have us as an A+. Then they have the Detroit Lions right behind us with an A+ as well. Then the Cowboys with an A. Then the Chargers with an A. Then the Broncos. Then the Dolphins. Then the Cardinals all with, actually it stops with the Dolphins with A's. Then the Cardinals, Titans, and Panthers have A-. Then the Giants, Steelers, Raiders, Bengals, and Packers have B+, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And I love to see the Falcons with a C-. I love to see the San Francisco 49ers with how petty they're being towards us. I'm running Ayuk right now with a C- as well. They felt like the Chiefs had the worst offseason in the NFL. They felt like the Patriots had the second worst. And then they actually have the Jaguars at 27th. So I'm a little surprised by that. They felt like they had the 6th worst offseason in the NFL. Again, I think it's easy to argue they had the worst, but still 6th worst isn't much better than what I assumed that how most people felt. And again, I'm just going off of what people are saying. I feel like the Jaguars had a bad offseason, but I've been seeing a lot of people saying literally dead last. But again, most importantly, the Washington Commanders, the best, leading the entire NFL with an A+. And they even do like a full breakdown. Like they said, talent acquired, 14 out of 20. Value efficiency, 12 out of 20. Retention, 15 out of 15. Talent loss, only a 9 out of 15. Needs addressed, 15 out of 15. And cap management, 12 out of 15. And that's how they came out with all of these grades. They said for agency signings, an A. Re-signings, A-. Extensions, they felt like it was a D-, which I'm shocked because I thought the Laramie Tunsil extension was elite. I thought that was an A. I thought that was so obvious, and I feel like we got him for even less than I was willing to give him. Then cap health, they gave us an A- as well. And then even for like draft picks, mind you, they graded us the best offseason out of every team in the NFL, and they felt like the Sonny Styles draft pick was an F. That is crazy. Antonio Williams, they gave a B+, Joshua Josephs B+, Katron Allen A-, and Matt Goldman B, and then Ethan Kayak-Manis a C-. But again, giving us the highest graded offseason in the NFL, and then you feel like we used our 7th overall first round pick on an F pick? I mean, like, imagine if they actually liked the Sonny Styles pick, how high they'd be on us. And then even like players gained, they even like give ratings to each of those. Like they felt like Odafe Owe was an overpay. They felt like Kayvon Chazon was a major steal. They felt like Chig Okonkwo was a big overpay. Oh, y'all are gonna see, y'all are gonna regret that. Leo Chenal, overpay. That is, I mean, very against the grain. I've seen everybody say that he was arguably the biggest steal in all of free agency for that any team has signed. Then Amik Robertson, big overpay. A lot of our fan base feels that way. I disagree. And then Tim Settle was good value, and then everybody else was fair all the way down. So even with all of that, even with all of this stuff that they're lower on than I am, and I feel like I'd strongly disagree with them on, they still felt like we had the best offseason in the NFL. That's pretty crazy. Then you also have ES right here asking, which is the most improved team this offseason with this picture? You have the Titans up there, you have the Bengals, you have the Jets, and then, of course, you have the Washington Commanders, the stars of the show. Shouts out to Lord Coffee Black, my dog over there on Twitter, because he brings up a great point. Only one of these teams has Jayden Daniels. I mean, shouts out Joe Burrow. Cam Ward's improving. I guess Geno Smith with the Jets for now. We'll see how that goes. They're more than likely in the sweepstakes for trying to get a quarterback at the top of the 2027 NFL draft. So I agree. Jayden Daniels, I would argue, is the best quarterback out of any of the teams on this list. So whether you feel like we are the most improved team or not, and I feel like there's a fair argument to be made there, again, stick to the model with their advanced analytics and stats. Felt like we were the most improved team in the entire offseason, not even just out of all of the bad teams. Like, they're specifically targeting with this graphic teams that were average at best last year, but pretty much all of us was somewhat level of some type of sorry. But even including all of the great teams, stick to the model, felt like we had the best offseason out of all 32 NFL teams. So I feel like we should obviously win this. And then again, to add to it, the cherry on top, we got Jayden Daniels and they don't. Then shouts out to @EliteTakes on Twitter. And this guy's not a Commanders fan nor a Browns fan. And he said the two GMs who deserve major credit for how their off seasons turned out after facing lots of heat. You have the Browns GM, and then of course you have the Washington Commanders GM and Adam Peters that he tweeted about. So, I mean, you're just seeing from all of these different viewpoints and opinions, everybody just feels like at some point the Commanders have to be included in the best off seasons in the entire NFL talks. Then shouts out to the Wenzel Per on Twitter for this, based on expert consensus big boards, who had the best draft value rank. So on a per pick basis, who got the biggest steals in the draft? And as you can see, Washington Commanders in first place, Indianapolis Colts in second, then you got the Chiefs, then you got the Panthers. And I consistently see the Colts and the Panthers towards the top of these lists. So a lot of people kind of have the same idea. The Commanders are one of, if not literally the best draft on a per pick value out of the entire NFL. But the Colts and the Panthers are also somewhat in the mix there. And then you just keep going and going and on. I mean, to be petty, the Giants are the next highest team in the NFC East at 9. Then it's the Eagles at 12. And then it's the Cowboys at 16. So, hey, the entire NFC East in the top half. But everybody can't be number one. I mean, matter of fact, everybody can't even be top 8 in this division. It just is what it is. Then shouts out to Daniel Jeremiah for this one. Again, going back to the point that you consistently see the Colts and you see the Panthers somewhere at least within the top 5, top 6 of every, and the Commanders as well. And everybody's like, who drafted the best in this past draft and stuff like that. Daniel Jeremiah even let us know which teams made the most of their picks. 150 points for players ranked first overall, 149 for players ranked second, players outside of the top 150, 0 points, 150 expected points for a first overall pick, 149 for a second overall pick, and picks outside of the top 150, 0 expected points as well. So look, with all of that information, as you can see, the Washington Commanders, he feels like, were the second best team at drafting in the NFL on a per pick basis, on a per value basis, with a 138.2%. The only team in front of us, Indianapolis Colts, with a 174.2%. Again, no matter what, the Commanders are in the conversation for one of the best drafts and off seasons out of anybody in the NFL. And don't forget that Warren Sharp had us ranked first as well in his rankings for the best draft on a per pick basis with his advanced stats and things like that. I think he had the Carolina Panthers second in that list. And then even ESPN, Matt Miller ranked his top 100 favorite picks of the 2026 NFL draft class based on value and fit and need. You have Sonny Styles 12th. You have Antonio Williams 62nd. And then you have Katron Allen 96. So we ended up with, out of only 6 picks that we had the entire draft, we had 3 of them in the top 100, including all 32 NFL teams for the best value picks. And it's insane because I feel like Joshua Joseph was our best steal of the entire draft, even compared to all of these other guys that are considered steals in this draft as well. And speaking of Katron Allen, Justin M_NFL listed his biggest NFL draft steal per round. And with the fact that I'm bringing this up, you can guess that the Washington Commanders have at least one of them. And Katron Allen, a.k.a. Fat Man, ended up making his list as the best steal from the 6th round. And on his list, he said, Katron Allen left Penn State as the program's all-time rushing leader with 4,180 yards. After concluding his college career with consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, Allen is a powerful and productive runner with the NFL caliber size and vision. The Washington Commanders have a crowded running back room, but it lacks high-end talent. Rashad White, Jeremy McNichols, Bill Krosky-Merritt, and Jerome Ford are all jockeying for a position on the depth chart and snaps. One of them will probably get cut this offseason to make room for this rookie runner. He didn't exactly explain or break down Kaytron Allen's skill set and his potential and stuff like that. But again, to list him as the best steal out of the entire 6th round, hey man, I'll take it. And then you also have FanDuel Sportsbook right here with this graphic. And I'm bringing this up because while showing the Commanders' defensive additions and saying that the Commanders went all in on defense this year, they might actually make some noise. So basically, they're hyping up our defense, and they have Adafe Owe there, Leo Chenal, Tim Settle, Amik Robertson, and Sonny Styles, of course. But they're missing Nick Cross. They don't have Charles Omenihu, Joshua Joseph's up there, Kaylavon Chazon, and there's no way people, I know, granted, he's not an addition, but Dorrance Armstrong was 5th in the NFL in sacks before he got hurt for the rest of the season. Mind you, he was playing through injuries even before the point that we lost him to a season-ending injury. And even while fighting through injuries, he was 5th in the NFL in sacks through like the first few weeks of the season. We could not forget about him, let alone Deron Payne, Payday Payne, trying to fight for his next contract. You know how he gets on the last year of a deal now. The one time he was a double-digit sack guy, it was because he was on the last year of his deal. I think Javon Kinlaw with better pieces around him is going to ball out. I think Dietrich Wise matters a lot. I feel like Frankie Louvu in this scheme is going to be so useful. I think Jordan McGee is going to elevate his talent. Trey Amos, remember, he was easily top 5 in Defensive Rookie of the Year rankings before he got hurt and we lost him for the season. Mike Sanders still in a permanent outside role, especially in a Devontae Jones defense that's not going to ask him to just straight up man cover people for long periods of time. It's more so he's going to be playing back in a zone, watching the quarterback's eyes and breaking on the ball. That's what he does best. That's what he did best at Michigan outside of blitzing. And I think Devontae Jones is going to ask him to blitz a lot as well. I'm expecting everybody to just be so much better. So it's crazy to just kind of focus in on only these 5 guys where like really our entire defense is about to be insane. Now moving on to now the Jayden Daniels praise from the national media. Shouts out to Phil Yates. He has the following 2026 fantasy rankings for Commanders players, and shouts out to Sleeper Commanders for pointing this out. He has Jayden Daniels as QB3 out of the entire NFL. Unfortunately, he has Terry McLaurin as wide receiver 24. He has Rachaad White as running back 33 and Ja'Cory Carson-Merritt as running back 42. I think it's absolutely criminal that Chig is not anywhere on this list at all. I think that's absolutely insane to me, bro. I'm flabbergasted, bro. I can't believe how low Phil Yates is in this article and how low Stick to the Model were on Chig Okonkwo and everything like that. I think he's going, at this point, he's going to surprise a lot of people. When he balls out the way that I think he's going to ball out, there's going to be a lot of people absolutely shocked by how insane he is. But for reference, Jayden Daniels wise with him being QB3, the quarterbacks in front of him, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Those are the only 2. Outside of them, Jayden Daniels is the top quarterback in projected fantasy football quarterback ratings. And then Warren Sharp is really close to agreeing with that. He actually is a little bit higher on Jayden Daniels. He did his 2026 quarterback rankings based on expected output, especially fantasy football wise. And he's saying output equals yards plus touchdowns. He has Josh Allen 1, and then he has Jayden Daniels immediately right behind him at 2. Second place out of all quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Even with this quarterback rankings, Josh Allen was really quick, short to the point. He said, Josh Allen, still the best dual asset fantasy scorer. Allen has closed as a top 3 scorer in 6 consecutive seasons. And then getting to Jayden Daniels and why he has him second, even though right after him, he says Lamar Jackson still has MVP caliber upside, Joe Burrow 4th, Justin Herbert 5th, and then you got to keep going on and on and on. But for Jayden Daniels, where out of the top 5 quarterbacks, he has the most amount of words included in his explanation. He said he has high upside as a rusher and a passer, and is demonstrated during his rookie season when he was QB5 in points per game with 20.9, throwing to Zach Ertz, Olamide Zaccheaus, Noah Brown as his primary options after Terry McLaurin. Basically saying this guy was elite without an elite supporting cast. Imagine basically what happens if he ends up with an elite supporting cast. 2025 was a lost season due to injuries, but a new offensive system will have Jayden Daniels play under center more with increased rates of play action and pre-snap motion. That's why he's going to be able to stay healthy. Daniels, in his entire career so far, this is crazy, only has 33 dropbacks from under center. That is insane. That has led to Daniels to use below league average rates of pre-snap motion at 45.6%, which is 24th in the NFL, and play action at 24.8%, 18th. So basically saying that this new David Blau system is not just Jayden Daniels. The system that he's going to be in, playing his offense, being the general of the offense and everything like that, that's another reason why we should have faith that Jayden Daniels is going to come back, bounce back, and ball out and be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's not just because of Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is a lot of it, but also David Blau deserves a lot of credit. And then shouts out to Sleeper Commanders. He said, me seeing this and not being surprised in the slightest. Jayden has the traits that you cannot teach and a personality that allows him to be the best he can be. Don't doubt that, man. People have a bad record of betting against him. I completely agree. And then shouts out to the Commanders lead, because he brings up a great point. For those of y'all that may be down, especially in this Commanders fan base after the season that Jayden Daniels had last year, he said, in case you forgot, in the 4 full games that Jayden Daniels actually played last year, where he started and finished the game, he had 875 passing yards, 176 rushing yards. How about 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, 1,051 total yards, and a 2-2 record? A shotgun fumble away from being 3-1 after the Bears game, and as long as 5 is on the field and healthy, he can hang with anybody, and I agree 100%. And he even showed some clips from those games. He showed a clip from the Giants game, from the Chargers game, from the Bears game, and then also even the Packers game as well, and it's showing them just making these insane, only Jayden Daniels can do that type of stuff, or maybe a handful of quarterbacks in the entire NFL can do this type of stuff, even in games last season. So now with an improved roster around him, with an improved offensive scheme and offensive coordinator better suited for what he needs to be doing, not necessarily what he wants to be doing, but what he needs to be doing, Jayden Daniels, the sky's the limit, bro. And then shouts out to REEF 100 on Twitter, because I completely agree. He said the Jayden Daniels disrespect this offseason will be remembered. I completely agree. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a checklist going down. We're going to play a lot of great quarterbacks on our schedule, and I think he's going to take it personally to make sure he beats and proves to everybody that I'm the better of us two. Every game we go into, I'm better than him. I'm better than him. I'm better than him. And by the end of it, Jayden Daniels is winning the MVP. But also, projection-wise, you have a Broncos fan tweeting out this picture and saying the championship weekend that would feed generations. You would have Drake May leading the Patriots versus Bo Nix leading the Broncos on the AFC Championship side. And then you would have Jayden Daniels leading the Commanders versus Caleb Williams leading the Bears on the NFC Championship side. And all 4 of those guys are the 2024 quarterback class. As you can see, J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix aren't necessarily included in these lists, in any of these graphics and stuff like that. But that's because all 4 of these guys have had at least some level of playoff success already. Drake May going the furthest, Jayden Daniels doing the best, doing the most with the least, I would easily argue. But all 4 quarterbacks are talented and good in their own rights. I would take Jayden Daniels over the other 3 any day of the week. But shouts out to the Broncos fan for realizing, yeah, this would be an elite conference championship weekend, man. I completely agree. And shouts out to Rio, because I only saw this because Rio sent it to the group chat. So shouts out to my dog Rio Robinson, and make sure you subscribe. Now moving on to the power rankings, and we're just going to sprint through these. I'm not going to spend too much time and literally show y'all the graphics of each of these rankings, but the Athletic has us ranked 26th behind the Dolphins, the Saints, the Bengals, the Falcons, the Colts. All of these teams I strongly disagree with, and I think we're better than. But at least above the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, Cardinals, Jets, and that the Titans did last. I think, honestly, the Cardinals will be the worst team in the NFL. And then you have Fox NFL's Ralph Vacciano, that he pretty much agrees. He has the Cardinals 32nd, dead last in the NFL. And then he has us 23rd. So again, the Athletic had us ranked 26th. This Fox Sports writer has us a little bit higher at 23rd. Mind you, this was back on April 28th. Then later on, May 17th, earlier today, he actually moved us down 1 spot to 24th. He moved the Colts up 2 spots, moved the Steelers and the Commanders down 1 spot each, and now he has us ranked 24th instead of 23rd. Not exactly sure what changed in between post-draft to where we are now, but it is what it is. And then you have NFL.com themselves ranking us 24th in power rankings, again, behind teams like the Saints and the Falcons, which I strongly disagree with, but I can't wait to prove everybody wrong. So even after all of this Jayden Daniels hype, all of this defensive hype, all of this elite offseason, arguably best offseason in the NFL hype, some teams are still sleeping on us. Some writers are still sleeping on us, putting us in the mid-20s in power rankings so far. Can't wait to come out week 1 immediately against the Eagles and prove everybody wrong. And now before we go, shouts out to David Harrison for bringing this up and bringing this to my attention. that the NFL's revamped accelerator program is smaller. It's only 34 people total and features high-profile coaches and executives this year around, including former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. I don't know how he's a part of it, but either way, David Harrison pointed out the fact that the Commanders also have defensive coordinator Devontae Jones and assistant general manager Lance Newmark are part of this week's accelerator program as well. From the Fowler report, quote, "The May Accelerator is intended to focus on advancing talent from underrepresented groups." The NFL wrote in a March memo addressed to all 32 NFL teams while remaining open to qualified senior level candidates of all backgrounds, and that includes non-minority candidates. But I just love the fact that out of only 34 people going, we have 2. There are 32 NFL teams, and we're able to take up 2 spaces, man, with our defensive coordinator. I mean, whatever Devontae Jones can take away from this accelerator program, please do. And Lance Newmark, I mean, I think he's destined to eventually get a full-blown general manager job eventually. Maybe this upcoming offseason he'll leave. But either way, before we go, the very last thing, shouts out to @WashingtonTakeCommand on Twitter, because he brings up a great point with this picture right here from the NFLPA rookie premiere photo. When you zoom in, why does 5'11" Antonio Williams look basically the same size as 6'3" Carnell Tate? Like my Georgia dog, Zachariah Branch, you can tell he's shorter. You can tell a lot of people are shorter here. Caleb Downs clearly looks shorter behind Antonio Williams. Like, I mean, these are people that are close by. Jeremiah Love looks almost the same height as well, but Carnell Tate, I don't know. Is Carnell Tate not as tall as we thought? Or is Antonio Williams maybe a little bit taller than we thought? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and I wanted to present that to y'all before we got up out of here. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Super shouts out to Watch to the End Gang, man. I'm 32 minutes into recording this video, and if you are still here, that means that you truly rock with StreetScores. You rock with me. You also love the Commanders, and you just straight up love football, man. Especially in these times in the offseason where there's not anything major going on. You know, I'm gonna always find something to talk about and dive into. I still have to do my Sonny Styles deep dive, my Antonio Williams deep dive. I still haven't done my Leo Chenal or Rashad White's free agency signing deep dives as well. I still got to do film sessions for the entire draft class too. So just make sure you stay tuned. I have plenty of ideas and content all throughout my different screens in front of me. So just stay tuned. I got y'all. But again, shouts out to Watch to the End Gang. If you can still hear me and see me right now, I appreciate you and thank you personally, for real, big time. And then also, of course, shouts out to Late Night Crew, Early Morning Crew, Noti Gang, Airy Video Gang, and Loop De Loop Group. And of course, leave that, make sure you leave a like before you go. Stiff arm that like button. Share this video to any and everybody that you know. I don't know what happened, but something just got into my eye right before I could end the video. Try to mess me up at the very, shot clock buzzer beater trying to mess me up. But either way, appreciate y'all. Leave a comment, if you feel any certain way about anything we discussed in this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. How do you feel about the Brian Thomas Jr. trade scenario? If the Jaguars trade for A.J. Brown, do you think it's more likely that the Commanders could end up somehow coming away with the trade to get Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jaguars? And would you even want to at all? Then let me know how you feel about the offseason praise for Adam Peters. Let me know how you feel about the Jayden Daniels potential going into this 2026 season praise. How do you feel about us being ranked on the power rankings where we are? All of that, man. Really appreciate y'all. Leave a like and well. I'm going to catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.